to comment.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Tom Smith, and I am joined by the newest member of Team SMWS America, Mr. Scott Brunow.
Thank
Scott,
you.
How are you, man?
Good, doing good, Tom. Thanks, and
Good.
I'm really looking forward to it. I can tell you that much, and hoping to. I've got a lot to learn. I can tell you that much. So,
well, it's a pleasure to have you on. I know certain members of our team who will go unmentioned really wanted to get you on board for a while. So very, very happy to have you going now. And we're gonna get you cranking up, man. You're gonna be doing a lot of streaming and that kind of thing, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yep.
So
yep.
And I dig your shirt, sir. I really appreciate your taste in flannel. We already know you have an impeccable palate, so it's nice to see that your clothing taste is very close behind.
I had to search the internet far and wide to find that, and it's not the exact match, but it is close, as close as I can get. So
I have 15 of these in my closet. So I could have just sent you one. That would have been fine.
And I did say, Jen. I think Jenna is scared as well that we're going to make her wear one. So.
Oh goodness, no, Jenna's safe. She's all right. She's it's all voluntary. All voluntary. Hey, listen. So, clothing matters aside, we have a killer whiskey to taste tonight that will be dropping tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So we are going to get into, I believe this is the last American whiskey release of 2021 for the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. Sounds a little strange that the Scotch Malt Whisky Society is dropping American whiskey. We'll get to that. But in the meantime, to ring in this last whiskey of the year, we have some special guests.
Yep.
Scott, take it away.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring in. I think everybody that's watching probably knows Chad and Sara from It's Bourbon Night.
Hey guys,
and Chad.
I love that shirt.
Yeah,
he's very proud.
Flanneled up when I saw you two. I was like, oh, I got 3 minutes. I'll never mind. I pulled this out of the hamper. It's fine.
We got to say we're very excited. You guys are doing an American whiskey. We can participate.
I'm liking where this is going. I'm liking that.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
And I mean, Tom, you know more on that, but the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, of course, is the Scotch Malt Whisky Society and originated in Scotland. But probably 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, you did your first American whiskey.
And actually, it was quite a ways before then that we did that the society did their first American whiskey. It was probably about 8 or 10 years ago.
Oh, wow. That long ago. Okay.
Yeah. There were some spirits that were coming out. I mean, listen, fewer and farther between than you see today, which is still pretty scarce. But we're working on increasing the frequency of these American offerings to really, create a place for the bourbon lover who's into single cask whiskey expressions and essentially barrel picks, and giving them something to look forward to every month. I mean, that's the goal. Getting there is, it's what we're working at. A lot of producers have a demand issue that vastly outweighs their supply issue. So they might not want to or be able to part with a cask at certain times, but things ebb and flow, and we remain positive that in the next few years, we're going to see our American offering broaden to quite a few different distilleries. So, yeah, it started about 10 years ago or so, but yeah, we just kind of reintroduced and reinvigorated single cask spirits, essentially whiskey and other spirits outside of the realm of Scotch whiskey, in the last about 3 or 4 years or so. So yeah,
beautiful. I think that was some of the first ones that Bart and I had received or got. Was there was a I guess I don't know what your
Distillery 133.
one. Yeah.
It's okay. It's all right, man. It's all good. Begins with a W in Seattle. Yeah.
And then the Texas one that starts with a B. I know that one was
right.
one of the first ones that we had gotten as well. So
down in Waco, that's distillery number 140. Chad and Sarah, you'll get used to this. It's something.
I didn't bring my decoder ring, but
well, you know what? One is being shipped to you as we speak.
Thank you.
But yeah, so you started out with some single malts, Scott. What was the first bourbon or rye that you tried, if you have yet, from the society?
Those two might. No. I've got from last year. There was B5.3 Seductive Sweetness.
Nice, sure.
If I can get my camera to adjust over here.
That's Sarah's nickname too.
Oh my gosh.
Nice. Yeah, that's that Tennessee distillery that we sourced, but without the Lincoln process. So
yeah, it's a
process.
14-year-old bourbon, 53.5%.
Yeah. One of the more aged ones. I mean, a lot of them are much younger these days. But tonight we actually have a pretty well-aged American whiskey. Not a bourbon, not a rye. This is a corn whiskey that we're trying tonight. Actually, the very first one that we are releasing in the U.S. But before we go any further, Chad and Sarah, I don't know if you know this about me or not. I am not really on social media at all, and I only do streams for the society, and I'm kind of clunky at it, as you'll see. But I just want to learn a bit more about It's Bourbon Night. If you could let us know what you guys are all about.
Oh man, where to start?
You go.
Well, we both kind of met because of bourbon, and the channel started in 2016, but we knew each other a little bit before that. 2014 is when we met, and
7 years as of this weekend.
But the long and the short of it, besides eventually getting married and at the end of 2019, is there in the beginning we were just friends drinking bourbon, and I was inviting Sarah over here to do bourbon nights, and that's where the name of the channel came from. Is just have people over and they bring a couple bottles, you have a couple bottles, you pour them, you talk about what you like, what you don't like, and
it's a bourbon night.
It's a bourbon night. So we started just doing that. We would write down our thoughts on whatever whiskey it was in a notebook, and then eventually we're like,
people would watch this.
Why don't we just put this on YouTube? You can put anything on YouTube,
right?
Why don't we just put this on YouTube? And it was purely from a hobby point of view.
Yeah.
And
I don't think we ever thought we would get like 1,000 subscribers. So.
Yeah. And it just sort of that analogy of the snowball just kept rolling down the hill and getting more snow, picking up speed. And now here we are.
Here we are
talking you guys drinking some American whiskey.
And as we talked about before we started the stream, we're right in the heart of Kentucky. So bourbon makes sense for us. It's also what, we kind of cut our teeth on. So it's
both born Kentuckians,
near and dear to our hearts. So we don't dabble in the Scotch too much,
but we have,
and we will.
We're gonna try and tempt you. I feel like the gauntlet might be on the table.
Okay.
We're gonna maybe not bring you over to the dark side, but at least expand your experience a little bit. Sounds like that's what you guys are all about in the realm of American whiskeys. And
yes, and I would even argue that bourbon is usually darker, so I would say we're the dark side.
The force is strong with this one.
On his own channel, you can't do that.
Well, no, I mean, I suppose he's right. I mean, with that new American oak aging stipulation, you are indeed the darker side. So
never tell him he's right, Tom.
Yeah.
That was your first mistake.
Nice.
So, Chad, was that a case of you love it when a plan comes together, where you was inviting Sarah over for those bourbon nights, and.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a little bit of an 18.
And what, Scott?
A little bit of an 18 situation. Well, I mean, Yeah, I won't lie. I did have a plan. It just took a lot longer for that plan to come together.
I'm stubborn.
Yeah. About a year and a half longer than
I only want to do things when it's my idea.
That's right.
That is not true, but yeah, my friends often say, like, in joke, like that I was the last one to know that I liked Chad.
That's right.
So everybody else knew before I did. So
that's fine. As long as you figured it out.
Eventually. Yeah. I still am not sure.
I'm on the fence myself.
Hey, Tom, let's jump right into the wood.
Hell yeah.
Because
this is awesome.
We've already had a question come up on corn whiskey, and it's from Pickly Doo. But he says, corn whiskey, what's the cask type? Hence us labeling this corn whiskey.
Can you, Scott, can you bring that label back up there? Are you able to read that? Yeah, let's zone in on Scott.
Oh yeah, if you make me.
Oh, what did I do? I don't want to take this whole thing offline. Anyway, folks, you'll notice that there we go. So the cask, there's a single cask there listed, and that says new charred oaks. That's new American charred oak barrel. So typically when you see that on one of our casks, it means that all of the aging was done in a single cask. And if you're just simply looking at this information and putting the pieces together, it's 80% corn with a little bit of malted barley and rye as well in a new American oak charred barrel. What does that say to you?
Sounds like a bourbon to me.
Sounds like a bourbon. Exactly. So the piece of information that's not on there because of kind of NDA type situations when we purchased the cask was the initial cask that it was in. We know that it was not new American oak charred wood. It could have been new oak that was uncharred. It could have been a reused cask. And that's one of the two major separators between bourbon and corn whiskey is the aging requirements. So since we couldn't get our hands on the cask information of what type of cask it was or how long that maturation was, we had to leave it off the label entirely. So I know that sounds maybe a little bit more convoluted than most of our viewers are used to, but at the end of the day, when Ewan and Kai tasted this whiskey, they said, listen, this isn't ideal. We don't have every single piece of information, but this whiskey is amazing. So we're buying a cask. And here we are. So it is a corn whiskey. By law, corn whiskey has to achieve 80% minimum corn in the mash bill, the recipe. Here, that's a combination of corn. I want to say 8% rye and 12% malted barley in this mash bill. So the maturation is key, and this is kind of how we've started this corn whiskey category with the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. Interestingly, I was brought into a discussion about how we should label this. Should it be CW for corn whiskey? Should it be AW for American whiskey? And we all decided that CW was probably best because we might get a little funkier down the road and need that umbrella of American whiskey to kind of cover, I don't know, wheat, 100% wheat whiskey, for instance. Some other crazy thing coming out of MGP that we haven't thought of yet. But something like that. So we decided to go with that for that reason, but also because going back to our friends down in Waco, they make a lot of really, really good corn whiskey from that Hopi blue corn. So I'm hoping that we can source some bottles from them, some casks rather, down the road from them as well. So in any case, corn whiskey, first one that we're releasing from the society. So it's a lot of fun. And Scott, you have on a trucker hat, so you're ready to go, man.
I do. I realized when Chad was wearing his It's Bourbon Night hat, and I had one up here too. I had to put on. So
love it. What
a good guy.
Should have put on my Scotch Dummy's hat.
But, I know where it is too.
Yeah, daggone it. Just wasn't prepared clothing wise. Everything was last minute.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you one thing about this corn whiskey is it sure gives a Kentucky hug like a bourbon.
Yeah.
Or immediately first sip, it's right there in the chest, giving that Kentucky hug. Now this is Kentucky whiskey, as it says, right? Doesn't it say on there? Yeah, region Kentucky. So I think that's apparent. It's the bourbon is majority corn, has to be. So it's not like this is.
It's not a huge departure.
Exactly, it's not a huge departure. It's right in our wheelhouse, and right now it is currently lighting a nice little fire in my chest that I'm enjoying, and this flannel may just have to come off because
Nice,
it's doing its job.
Now help me math really quick. 61.6 is 123.2. Is that right?
2. Yes, you got it. Nailed it. Yep.
You all,
and that's the best I'll ever do. I should just leave now. That's the best I'm going to
do. Everything we bought was at cask strength.
I love that.
Yeah. So everything is coming out at proof, and for most of our Scotch whiskey, that's somewhere in the neighborhood of say 58 to 64% ABV. Obviously, as it gets older, most times that ABV mellows down to maybe 48 to 54. But that's about as mellow as we get. So it's pretty, it's pretty full strength stuff.
Yeah. I like how this is playing with like, obviously the sweetness of the corn, but there's the oak influence in there too. That's kind of balancing out the sweet. And then like the proof is really just like rounding the whole thing out. I really like those three things. Kind of, if we're talking like a Venn diagram, I just like how it's sitting nicely in the middle.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'm liking this little chocolate malted milk ball situation that's sort of happening mid palate to finish. Really liking that.
Huh.
Yeah. Earlier I tasted this whiskey, early afternoon. And I was getting a lot of like kind of desserty pumpkin creme brulee came to my mind. Coconut cream pie. There was another in there. Oh, like kind of toffee apples, but spiced. Like if you were to get like go
on.
all this, all these things, all these things were coming to me. But now I'm really this evening, I'm really overtaken by kind of like the menthol character of it too, which I think is interesting. I mean, typically you get that from a higher rye in my experience, like a higher rye mash bill, but this is only 8% rye. But in any case, there's a lot going on. Scott, what are you getting?
A lot of dusty corn and a buttery cinnamon spice. I don't know if I've ever had a buttery cinnamon. It's almost like if you were in a diner that served fresh rolls and they brought them out to you, and there was a butter and a cinnamon on those, like a pre-roll.
Wow, this
I'm glad I ate before this stream.
This live stream is getting ready to be M for mature with all these descriptions. Oh, we're getting hot and bothered.
Oh my god!
Nice.
Hey Tom, did you see that question from Daniel H?
Yes. Okay. Sorry, I gotta focus in here. I'm just slugging this beautiful whiskey back right now.
It is a good one.
So does the corn whiskey come from a distillery that already has a code? I do not believe this particular distillery has a code. So you may find that CW will share a code with will be the same distillery as a B down the road at some point. Fingers crossed. So Chad and Sarah, I'm sitting here just like hooked on phonics here. So as far as our coding system is concerned, we have typically numbers for Scotch whiskey or single malt whiskey. And you put that back up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I missed the plaid / mustache beard. The whole.
That's true.
No.
Yeah. Well, next time.
I'll do my best.
So for numbers, so if we were drinking, single malt right now, it would be numbers 1 through 151 or so. But once we get into other spirits, bourbon, you have a B 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's like different distilleries that we've worked with. rye RW, now corn whiskey CW, and American single malts like ones from Seattle or or Texas or wherever they may come from do have a regular number, like a Scotch whiskey. But yeah, so we're hoping to. Right now we're at B6. So actually, no, we should be at B7, B8. Should be around B8 right now. So hopefully, in the next couple of years, we'll be getting up to like B20. that's our
I
hope.
was gonna be rude and yell bingo.
Yeah, I think Sarah has a bingo. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we don't talk about distilleries. You know, what we're focusing on is the flavor in the bottle. So what started out of necessity from independent bottling restrictions has kind of morphed over time into an invitation to really just focus on the flavor and let preconceived notions be. Because oftentimes it's a single cask. It's not representative of the house style. So
now I noticed here on the back, Tom, it says produced in the USA, of course, bottled in Scotland. Did it come over in the barrel or was it vatted before? It came over in the barrel. Okay. Wow. So it did a little
very well traveled.
A tiny bit more aging, I guess, on the sea and over in Scotland before it was actually barreled.
Yeah, it only takes about 10 days to cross. So it's
I mean that's a little bit.
It's not
a little bit of those
like Jefferson Ocean or anything.
11 years, right? Yeah.
Now,
how many times did it cross the equator?
Right. Now, Scott, I know you said like a buttery cinnamon spice. Did anyone say apple? Because I feel like somebody said apple, or am I making that up?
Yeah, Tom.
I said apple. Yeah, like some kind of spiced toffee.
Because I'm sitting here with it, and I'm thinking of like
get it on the nose. Yeah.
So like if I make an apple pie, but before it goes into the oven, when like it's just still like dough and spiced apples and like butter rubbed crust before it goes into the oven and gets all
butter rubbed crust.
Delicious. Okay, we're gonna have to stop because he is too happy about this.
Butter rubbed nut crust.
Yeah, it just smells like a homemade apple pie right before it's baked.
Absolutely.
And I think that's super nice.
Buttery cinnamon on that apple pie.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's like one of those that's like almost memory inducing nose, which I love that stuff. Like that's my favorite is when a nose or a taste it'll be like, it reminds me of this time when I was doing this.
Yeah. On the finish, I specifically get cooked cinnamon apples, but when they left a little bit of the skin on the apple, a little bit of the peel, that is, that's kind of coming through for me on the finish. It's really good. I like that.
But I wouldn't say it's like a really pronounced apple note. It's very subtle and nice.
You all started talking about it. And
very balanced in there.
I sort of started, zeroing in on how I felt about it.
Like you said, though, it is interesting that we're all kind of saying cinnamon spice when it has such a low rye content and has so much corn. But I mean, I think that's probably, the wood. And then also I think the proof is kind of giving us that warm heat, that's playing into that too.
This takes water really good too. I don't know if anybody's added water yet. I put a couple drops in and it really, you don't hardly notice it proof wise. It's still giving you that Kentucky hug, like you say. I think it's helping the finish a little bit. It's really kind of dragging it out and almost brought out a little bit of a floral note to me as well. Water did, but
don't have our eyedropper with us right now, so I'm just going to do the finger method.
Gross.
It is what it is.
It's his whiskey, so he can do what he wants with it.
Right.
Is it his water?
Yes, mine's right here.
Yeah, that's the important part is whose water is it?
I mean, we are married, but you got to draw the line somewhere, right?
Agreed. Yeah.
This falls somewhere in between sharing a drink and using each other's toothbrush.
Never.
One of them is far across the line. No. Sorry if you're watching and you do that.
You don't want to upset that shared toothbrush crowd.
Right. I don't want
you don't want to lose that.
They're audience. A demographic.
Yeah. Paul Flexner says maybe we should add a bit of bourbon to the apple pie mix. Yeah.
I do that. Yes.
Yeah.
Because like, I think the key, sorry, I don't mean to, I feel like you got to stop me because, we do our own thing so much that I tend to forget that this is not my show.
Talk about baking.
But
No, go.
to do a good apple pie is you got to cook the apples down first, some with the cinnamon and butter and, a little bit of flour and just get them all like nice and soft and like that's when I put bourbon in because I think it kind of glazes them nicely and then you put it in the pie shell. Some people just be throwing apples in straight in. I'm like, they get too watery.
Yeah, all that water.
All the water just cooks out and then it just sits in there. You can't do that.
So what kind of bourbon do you use?
Oh, I think like you want something that plays into the cinnamon, but also I think something, that's sweet and higher in corn would go nicely into the sweetness, but I like a little more spice. I mean, I would probably use something around 100 proof that's got some rye, at least a high rye content, or like I think a bottle that would be easy to use and wouldn't hurt the wallet would be something like a Rittenhouse rye or something like that.
Yeah, you could use a rye. I was same distillery. I was thinking Elijah Craig, 94 proof. But
well, you don't want to use anything too high proof.
Not too high proof. Yeah. Don't be putting Booker's in there. You're going to have an Oven Busters batch. That's how that got its name. Don't cook with Booker's. Yeah, something around the 100 proof. Nice bottle and bond.
Something, or even like a Four Roses. You could do, small batch that has
or single barrel
higher rye content.
Yeah.
But yeah,
cooking with single barrel. Nice.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Fancy.
Well, better ingredients make better cocktails, right?
I
So I guess they make better pies too.
Yeah, and better pizza.
That's what I was.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, no.
Those commercials. Anyway.
Tony Mercury says, if this is barrel proof mellow corn, someone please take my money and send me a bottle. Tony, that we'll take your money tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern.
As long as you remember.
As long as you remember. Yeah. Taylor actually commented, he said up until recently he had to use the finger method. He just got a Glencairn dropper. I see the Scotch 4 dummies are tuning in. What's going on, guys?
Hi.
Hey, what's up?
Donner Pass Whiskey made a persimmon bread with a half a cup of larceny. It was yummy.
That sounds good.
I could work. Nice weeder. Yeah. Actually, Maker's 101 might be a really good bourbon to put in an apple pie.
I think that would be really good.
Nice sweet weeder, but
I was gonna say use that wheat recipe and the sweetness. You bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that'll really make the apples good and add to that sugary syrupiness.
Yeah, but kick it up from that 90 proof to the 101.
Yeah, I like that too.
Well,
it's a good idea.
And Thanksgiving is coming up. Sarah.
Right, it is. But this isn't its baking night. We're here to talk about this.
It's also not.
It's my fault.
Night. It's.
I know.
I got to go back over this recording and talk to my wife about how to make apple pie now.
Yeah.
I've never baked one in my life. She does more like blueberry type things. I don't know if she's ever done an apple pie. So
well, if she just puts them straight into the crust, then that is her business, and we will let her continue. And don't tell her I said anything, okay?
No.
I mean,
it's in your best interest to say.
You seem to know the way, so
it is the way. I see a question there from. Well, you're pulling them up there, Scott.
Yeah, but which one was it? That one or another one?
From Mark Hughes. He was just saying. He was asking, how does the Scotch Malt Whisky Society work?
Hey, Scott, you feel good answering this question, or should
I was looking for it. You bet. Yeah. So the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, we are a membership, society. We have an annual membership that costs $99 for the first year to join, and then you can buy as many bottles of our whiskey as you want. We have our website. You can go to smwsa.com. Is that right?
Sure is.
We 15 to 20 whiskeys a month probably release, all single cask. Well, not all. We have done a couple of blends, but and I think there may still be batch 12, which is a blend. There still may be a few bottles of it left on the website.
That I think is sold out at this point.
Is it? Is it gone?
Go ahead.
It was there the other day. I know I was in there.
That's how it goes. Everything is single cask, so they come and they go very, very quickly.
It's there until it's not.
Exactly. Yeah. It's all pretty finite. I mean, we're releasing 20 to 25 casks a month, and there are only ever 30 or 40 casks on the website. So
that is impressive.
Very.
yeah.
As two people who just started doing barrel picks this year, and it's averaging out to be like roughly one a month. That is impressive.
Well, we have a tasting panel in the
Yeah.
UK that that makes sure that all of these casks are ready for our membership globally. So, that they're literally tasting a few times each week to make sure that these barrels are ready to go. So,
How do I get on this panel?
on this panel, well, I mean,
Go to
you
Europe.
got to know a guy, and a couple of guys in plaid here. So,
Yeah.
when you're over in Scotland looking for your new favorite whiskey, a Scotch whiskey, we can talk to some folks over there and have you sit in on it. But
Intriguing.
yeah.
Instead
There
of
you
a-
are, got the last bottle of batch 12.
Tom R. got that bottle.
instead of a secret password, it's a secret shirt, and
It's a secret flannel.
and the secret is flannel.
You have to be wearing
That's
that
right,
exact
that's right.
flannel.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it. Perfect.
Back to Mark Hughes though a little bit. So majority of what you see from the Scotch Malt Whisky Society are Scotch, single malt Scotches, single cask, cask strength. They're not watered down. They come right out of the cask into the bottle. We're expanding, and you're here for its Bourbon Night. So the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, being Scotch and originated in Scotland, majority of what we have done is Scotch. We have done a few American whiskeys. This is the last one for 2021, which Tom, maybe 10 or 12 American whiskeys this year?
We did, about that. A little less than that, actually. About nine American whiskeys.
Mm-hmm.
9 American whiskeys. So, and we have more coming next year. Some bourbon, some rye, another corn whiskey, CW 1.2, which will be obviously the second cask from this distillery. So we do have more coming, and as our relationships develop, it's kind of difficult at times to be able to purchase a cask that's ready to go. So a lot of these are new fillings that have to then lay down for, say, 3 to 5 years or so that we have a lot in the works that will be kind of coming to fruition over the next few years. So a lot to look forward to for folks who are into bourbon and rye, and who are soon to be into Scotch whiskey. Come on, Chad.
So we've actually talked
You
about,
found the right bottle, man.
actually, maybe you guys, if you don't mind to take a moment, can shed some light on this. We've been talking about, supposedly there's like a Scotch train in Scotland where you buy an all-inclusive ticket, and it's like all your food, and you sleep on there, and it includes like super exclusive experiences at different distilleries. And as two people who've never been and who've really never tried much Scotch, we were like, wouldn't that be a fun episode? Just drop these two bourbon people right in the middle of Scotland,
right?
and see what happens. Like, throw them in the deep end, right? Have you guys heard of such a thing?
I have heard of it. Yeah, we've had members who have taken it. I believe is it called the Royal Scotsman? Is something as apparent as that?
That might be it. I can't remember the name.
Yeah, I can't either.
But yeah, I've had members that I've spoken with who have taken this train ride and gone to these more bespoke distillery visits and such. So yeah, I mean, if you just want to go for it and you have a few grand kicking
what
around,
better way?
burning
What better
a
way
hole
to
in your
find what I
pocket.
like? Oh,
Yeah,
well,
sure.
yeah. It would be
Well-
for content and education, though, too.
Absolutely, sure, yeah. So
In the name of
it's a write-up.
research.
Was this right?
Exactly. Yes, the Royal Scotsman. You were right. It's the Royal
that's right.
Scotsman.
Just looked it up.
Right, yeah. That's a pretty amazing experience. We do have some members venues. So before you hop on the train, you can go to members venues for the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. We have 2 in Edinburgh, our spiritual home in Leith called the Vaults, where it all started in 1983. We have a townhouse on Queen Street, closer to the castle, kind of Edinburgh proper, 28 Queen Street. And then we have other members venues in Glasgow and London. So
Amazing.
there, you're a member. You can bring up to three guests with you, and talk about like kind of a full immersion. There are, you're just looking at a sea of like kind of like what's behind me, but an
Wow.
entire bar
Times
filled
10.
with society whiskeys over the course of 40 years. So
Yeah.
you're looking at
I'm in the
different
building.
packaging, and it's pretty incredible. So to just be able to dive into the different styles of whiskey, whether it's ex-bourbon or sherried whiskey, which is very, very popular, very rich and forward, which might be a nice stepping stone for a bourbon lover. And then the peated whiskeys, like the smoky Isla stuff, which is very polarizing. But those who get into it rarely think of little else. So it's
We'll have to work up to it.
yeah, sure. It's a different world. But I would say to you guys, if there's a style of Scotch whiskey or just any sort of single malt whiskey that might be a good kind of bridge from bourbon over to the lighter side of things, sherried whiskey I think would be a good bet for you. Good place to start.
Okay.
All right, write that down.
So how many bottles will there be? There are 114 bottles available in the United States of this corn whiskey that's dropping tomorrow. So 114 bottles. It will be limited to 1 bottle per member. I would imagine this will sell out in about an hour or two.
Wow.
So be nimble. If you have to, take a quick break from what you're doing, and log on and or give us a call. Otherwise, wait for the next one, because there's always a next one. So that's a good thing.
Paul Flexner is asking, he says, how do you do all this tasting and analysis and keep your taste buds working and your head clear? Lots of practice. That's what I'd like to say.
Practice.
Lots of water.
Practice, drink more water. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Practice,
Yep.
and a lot of self-control a lot of times, and you got to
Small
know
course.
when to say when. Yep.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's a bit of a slippery slope if you let it be. So
Yeah.
I work in like kind of a shared, like a WeWork type shared office space, and people always ask, like, you're surrounded by whiskey, like, why aren't you drinking all day? Like, think about that. It's a difficult place to be if you're drinking all day. So
Right.
every so often.
Yeah.
Now, out of curiosity, you said you've done 10 or less American whiskeys this year. How do your customers across the pond, how do they receive them? Do they sell well over there as well, or is it just located for sales in the U.S. or what?
Oh no, a small portion go to the UK, or if they're bottled there, stay in the UK. We did start bottling in the US over the last 2 years. So a portion of our American whiskey will be bottled in the US, a portion in the UK, depending on various factors. But the chapter for the UK and for Europe does receive a small allocation, much smaller than the US. But they get them, and they're well received. It's just with tariffs, tariffs were an issue. I think they've now just recently been suspended.
Yeah,
if I recall
finally
correctly.
fixed that. Yeah.
So that's good.
But it's vice
that
versa.
was a big problem.
It's vice versa with scotches. So they'll keep when they bottle a scotch. I think with a lot of our whiskeys, the majority of the bottles are kept in the UK, and a smaller percentage are sent to the States. Outside of, there have been a few U.S. exclusive bottlings where we got the whole cask.
That's right. Yeah, our exclusive casks are increasing each year. Still, compared to the entire volume of what we're releasing, it's a small amount, but still they are increasing. And you're right. There are costs of shipping, of importation, of duties, and that sort of thing that everyone who's not in Scotland has to incur. Whether you're in the US or Canada or New Zealand, we have 30 chapters around the world. So each country has kind of a different situation there. So obviously, we have a lot of members who look at the US prices and then look at the UK prices and say, hey, there's this huge delta. Like, what's going on? And it's like, well, they're essentially selling out their back door, and we're selling after it's been shipped and gone through umpteen levels of clearance and that sort of thing. So something to keep in mind. But at the end of the day, it's not that much more expensive. And, it's pretty tremendous juice, whether it's American Scotch or otherwise.
For sure.
Totally.
Tom R says that if SMWS wants to see how a cask would age in Chicago climate, he has a guest bedroom we can use.
Guest bedroom aged. Nice.
Well,
you
we
only
have
notice a tiny bit of it go missing at a time.
right. Yeah, sure.
Like, this is a leaking barrel. Oh.
It's not the angel share. It's something else there. But well, actually, Tom, we have a few casks that were distilled in your neck of the woods that I think are going to be released in quarter casks. So, at least doesn't take up so much space. So maybe we can figure something out there.
Maybe we're onto something here. Aged on waterbed.
Yeah, there we are.
I like it.
Daryl
Jefferson
Eder is watching.
Lazy.
He says he's drinking B39 bourbon whiskey from Arkansas. He has 6 bottles of SMWS from Scotland. Every bottle is great.
Have you guys ever come across Rocktown bourbon? Do you ever taste that? Do you stick to Kentucky only, or do you kind of venture outside?
No, we're all over the U.S.
But sometimes it's just about what we can get in our region.
Yeah,
Some things come to Kentucky slow and later than everybody else.
and we get sent things from people who are proud of their state whiskey. That sounds familiar, but I couldn't tell you anything about it. So
Okay.
I don't think we have a bottle.
yeah.
Okay. Well, Phil, Brandon, if you're listening, send these guys a bottle.
Okay.
I mean,
there we go.
it's really tasty. It's like sneaky good bourbon. Like I
Ooh.
had never heard of it. I mean, I ran retail stores in Manhattan for years before I started with the society, and I purchased a lot of whiskey. I had never come across Rocktown, B3 for us, and man, I was just floored by this stuff. I mean, I find out later on that Dave Pickerel helped set everything up and get it off the ground, and that's a bit of a blessing of sorts there.
Yes.
But really, really good stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I'm interested in trying sneaky good bourbon.
Would love to. Yeah, would love to try it for sure.
Sold.
Dram Session is asking, will SMWSA members ever be able to buy SMWS UK releases?
well, there are a lot of releases that are shared amongst the chapters, and as far as like what kind of business we're doing, the US is a very close second to the UK. So essentially, we're getting access to a lot of different whiskeys. If you're talking about UK exclusive casks, that's a little different. You probably wouldn't get access to that as an American member unless you went through some kind of auction or something like that. You're not going to get it through us. It's a UK specific release, for a reason. So that's going to be a tough get in the USA.
I've added several.
Don't mind me, guys. I'm just going to keep pouring. Oh, sorry, Scott. Go ahead.
I've added several drops of water to this, and it's only gotten better. I mean, it's just gotten sweeter and sweeter, and the palate just keeps going on this one.
I added about five drops of water to mine, but I've since killed it.
So it was terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible. Bring me another.
What do you guys think? I'd brought up to Tom. So SMWS, we erred on the side of caution with this by not labeling it a bourbon just because we didn't know what that first cask was. I thought if this was 11 years old and at cask strength, I thought if this had been only in new virgin charred barrels, that it would be a lot darker, the color.
For that proof, you would think so. I kind of noticed that too when I had it in the glass. It wasn't particularly dark, so
Right.
Yeah, the theory of it being in it, second cask
That's
for
good
it
evidence,
is
yeah.
it's pretty good evidence. But
Yeah.
I mean, taste wise, I think everything is still there.
Yeah, it's definitely in that vein.
Yeah. And I think, and Tom was telling me the SMWS, we want to be transparent and put all the information that we can out there, but we just didn't know on this one what that first barrel was. We weren't told.
Yeah, like the TTB isn't going to look at a label and say, initial cask. We have a pretty good idea. It's a refill ex bourbon barrel. They're not going to go for that. So
yeah, I think erring on the side of caution is appropriate here.
Yeah,
and I mean, also, like you said, the TTB is not going to be like, oh, well, if you're 70% sure, then fine.
Yeah, right.
Oh, well, you're mostly sure. Yeah,
mostly.
Yeah, so we want to give as much accurate information as possible, and usually that's like every step of the way. So it's an interesting situation. Another interesting thing about this whiskey, a lot of people who receive the email tomorrow will notice, is that the tasting panel really waxed poetic. And aside from mentioning eucalyptus in a sentence, they gave very little detail on the actual flavor components that they perceived. It's typically what you're seeing. Here, it's a little different. So I think it will serve people very well to come back to this stream and kind of listen to what we had to say about the whiskey. And yeah, I think it's showing pretty well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And we'll have at least one more cask from this particular CW1, the mysterious CW1 out of Bardstown.
Mysterious.
So mysterious.
I wonder what clue we'll get on your next pour.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you'll find that I start blurting out more as the tasting goes on. That's
but who doesn't?
Part of the charm,
right?
Part of the charm.
Oh, I like it.
Got any other pressing questions, Scott?
I don't think so. I think we've had quite a few good questions have come up, and I think we've about addressed everything with it. So tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern time, this will be available on the Scotch Malt Whisky Society website. And would you say 100 and how many bottles are available?
There were 114 that came over, and I think there'll be somewhere around 100 available tomorrow once this goes live. And yeah, so log on to smwsa.com. If you're not a member, you can learn more about it on the website. As Scott said earlier, it's $99 for the first year, $70 each subsequent year to get access to our whiskeys, and eventually, very, very soon, preferred pricing on in-person events, which will be coming down the pipeline.
Very exciting.
For those who are watching, if you don't know Tom's role, Tom has been responsible over the last several years of really, what I say, upping what whiskeys are coming to the States. And Tom, you've done a great job. I think, especially over the last 2 or 3 years, we've definitely seen the good bottles have definitely improved, or the bottles that we're getting.
Yeah,
you've done a great job of picking out. So,
well, it's a team effort, Scott, as you will understand very quickly. We're a small but mighty team, and it takes all of us for sure. But yeah, it's we just hit 5,000 members. When we started in 2016, we were at about 2,000, 2,100. So
wow.
We're moving, and it's amazing to me how few whiskey lovers in this country know about the society. Mm-hmm. So it'll be great for you to help us further kind of evangelize and spread the good word about what's going on. I mean, and like Chad and Sarah, what you were talking about earlier, how things started with you guys about just people bringing bottles over and sharing. I mean, that's very much what we are about is just sharing this tasting experience. And members over the years of starting to get together and doing their own like little tasting groups and everything. And
isn't
really
that the
cool
best?
To see. It's really cool to see how it's evolved. And and our YouTube folks are just fantastic. I mean, we have the same core of people showing up for all of our streams, and really appreciate you. So It's good times, guys. Maybe the best.
Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much for having us on. We really appreciate the invite and you guys, sharing this bottle with us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And we can hopefully share more bottles with you.
Hey, I'm not going to say
down
no.
Would love
that.
Yes.
Down the pipeline, and we'll get some rye, get some bourbons, and then eventually we'll sneak in a scotch or two. See what
I'll allow it.
Hey,
I'll allow it.
Sneaky.
See what happens.
Well,
See what happens.
and I'm working as well on trying to do a little bit of a YouTube road show. For those that are watching and don't know me, I have a YouTuber. I'm on a YouTube channel. It's called the Scotch Test Dummies, and to improve the SMWS's YouTube presence, I brought up to Ben traveling, hitting up a few of these YouTube channels in person, and letting you guys try some whiskeys, other whiskeys as well. So stay tuned on YouTube, anyway, especially on the SMWS channel for more YouTube interaction. Let's say.
Awesome.
Yeah, you gotta come to Kentucky.
I mean,
come
we would
on.
look forward to
Come on.
hosting you here.
Yeah.
That's right.
Do you think it's weird if it's the Scotch Malt Whisky Society though that gets me to Kentucky?
I mean, it's interesting events.
Yes, but whatever gets you to Kentucky, we don't judge. Whatever gets you here.
A twist.
Mhm. Yeah.
You're like he's here, but he's with the Scotch Malt Whiskey Society.
He's in bourbon country, and
Hey, no judgment.
we know
It's all-
you'll enjoy it.
It's all whiskey.
Yeah.
Good community.
Mm-hmm.
Tom started. He was a bourbon man, and
I was indeed. Yeah. Going back to 2007, I was standing in Frankfurt buying single casks for my groups of I mean, imagine buying a single cask now from those guys.
I know.
I mean, okay, just to
I'm dreaming of what that might be like.
I was getting cases of Pappy. I mean, of course, the 10, the 12, both of the 10s, the 12s, whatever I wanted. 15-year, I was getting four 12 packs, 48 bottles, priced at $75 a bottle. It was a beautiful,
I like you much after
magical
the story.
I mean, well, it was 2007. So
What are you gonna do?
Time marches on. And,
Well, I hope you saved some of those.
You know what I did actually? I saved a handful, and I used them to pay for the catering for our wedding. So
That's amazing.
There you go.
yeah. I mean, I saved one for myself, but the other
Sure.
4 took care of catering for 150
Right.
people.
Yeah.
Wow.
'cause-
So you do the math there.
Incredible. Good job.
But anyway, yeah. So I was all in on bourbon, like, I don't know, I'd say 2005 was when I really started getting into spirits. 2007 was when I had my first spirits director job, and that went through 2014. I mean, I joined this 2016, so somewhere in there it was a switch to Scotch.
Wow.
But, tastes evolve and they change over time, and you just stay open to experiences, and it's going to be a good roll. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
I like it.
Anyway, all right, guys. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us. We certainly hope you'll join us again very soon.
Absolutely.
And we'll explore some more whiskey together. Until then, Slandra, cheers, and happy Thanksgiving, guys.
That's right.
Thank you. You
Happy
too.
Thanksgiving.
Everybody
All
have
right,
a good
take
and
care.
safe Thanksgiving.